A pleasant day, everyone. I am going to discuss the 9 categories of instructional strategies. The first question you might ask right now is, who is Robert Marzano and where did these strategies come from? Robert J. Marzano is an educational researcher in the United States who has written over 30 books and 150 articles on almost every aspect of classroom instruction. He has done educational research and theory on the topics of standard-based assessment, cognition, high-yield teaching strategies, and school leadership, including the development of realistic programs and resources in K-12 school for teachers and administrators. He and a team of researchers conducted a large-scale analysis in the late 1990s to determine which teaching practices correlate most closely to increased learning and achievement of students. They perform a meta-analysis that analyzed hundreds and hundreds of published research studies on various instructional techniques, and through this study they reached two key findings. First, there is evidence that an individual classroom teacher can have a huge impact on student achievement. In other words, teachers matter. Second, they identified 9 different types of instructional strategies with empirical evidence showing a greater probability of increasing student achievement when used. In 1998, they published their findings in the book. The Robert Marzano's 9 effective instructional strategies. The first 3 strategies are setting objectives and providing feedback, reinforcing effort and providing recognition, and cooperative learning. These 3 strategies fall under the larger umbrella of creating an environment for learning. They each identify ways to concentrate learners in the classroom and build the culture in the classroom that encourages academic growth. The second 3 strategies are cues, questions, and advanced organizers, non-linguistic representations, and summarizing and note-taking. These 3 strategies fall under the broader category of helping students develop understanding. These strategies help students to activate their background knowledge and use it to scaffold new learning. They also help students to make connections between concepts, to create links between ideas, to build material understandings, and to coordinate new learning. The last 3 strategies are homework and practice, identifying similarities and differences, and generating and testing hypotheses. These strategies are all used to help students extend and apply knowledge. The goal is to move students beyond to focus on having the right answer and to a deeper understanding of how they function in real-world situations with the information and skill they learn. For new learning to have value, students must see that it is relevant, useful, and meaningful. Before we begin learning about each strategy individually, these are some common mistakes about these instructional strategies. After the 9 strategies began to be adopted by schools and school districts across the United States, Marzano noticed some disturbing trends in how schools and teachers were using his findings. In 2009, he published an article identifying 3 common mistakes associated with his 9 instructional strategies. The first was that some schools and teachers are focusing only on these 9 strategies. Marzano never meant to present these 9 strategies as the totality of effective teaching practice. Instead, they were intended as tools in a teacher's chest of instructional resources. The second mistake is closely related to the first, and it is assuming that high-yield strategies must be used in every class. Teachers must be intentional about which strategy they use and when. Teaching is context-specific, and Marzano wrote that a specific instructional strategy is effective only when used in the specific situation for which it was designed. This means understanding how and when to use each strategy. The last mistake Marzano noted was assuming that high-yield strategies will always work. Just because you have your students use the strategy of note-taking and summarizing on a regular basis does not mean that they will immediately love your class and will understand the lesson properly. They will not also ace on their achievement test. As a future teacher, we have to constantly reflect on what we are doing, why we are doing it, and how students are responding. If a particular strategy is not producing the desired results, we need to think about why and then try something else. We should always remember that students are different from each other. We should consider their capabilities as students as well as their strengths and weaknesses. The Marzano 9 are not silver bullets that are effective in all situations. Rather, they are powerful tools in your toolbox of teaching resources if they are used systematically and intentionally. Let's begin with the first strategy, identifying similarities and differences. The ability to break a concept into its similar and dissimilar characteristics allows students to understand complex problems by analyzing them in a more simple way. Identifying similarities and differences is the process of comparing information, sorting concepts into categories, and making connection to one's existing knowledge. Simply put, identifying similarities and differences helps us make sense of the world. One way to utilize similarities and differences is by comparing. The Venn diagram is an example of comparing information. Venn diagrams have two circles with differences on the outside and similarities on the inside. They are used to answer questions like how are things similar and how are things different. Another example of similarities and differences is classifying. Classifying can be seen when students specify elements to items to arrange them in groups. A classifying lesson example would be where students are given a list of food items, then they must categorize those items as either an acid or a base. Looking for similarities and differences prompts the learner to consider, what do I already know that will help me learn this new idea? The second strategy is summarizing and note-taking. These skills support increased comprehension by asking students to identify what is essential and to put it in their own words. Effective summarizing leads to an increase in student learning. Helping students recognize how information is structured will help them summarize what they read or hear. Note-taking is a related strategy that teachers use to support students' learning. Note-taking should be a form of active learning. It's more than just sitting in the classroom and copying down word for word. Students also benefit from using their notes as a learning record. Teachers should encourage students to review and refine their notes, particularly when it is time to prepare for an exam, write a research paper, or the other summary learning assessment. Number 3. Reinforcing effort and providing recognition. Teachers need to help students to see the relationship between effort, achievement, and recognition. Reinforcing effort enhances students' understanding of the relationship between effort and achievement by addressing their attitudes and beliefs about learning. You'll find that students attribute success to different causes: ability, effort, other people, and luck. Don't just assume that students understand and value hard work. You want to directly tell students that their effort will lead to success. Give them an okay, a thumbs up, and a pat on the back. You can even leave them a post-it note for their classroom effort. Don't just praise students for doing what is expected. Give them praise when it's earned. Providing recognition when the child has an achievement helps build intrinsic values and intrinsic motivation for the child. Research makes clear that the connection between effort and achievement. Believing you can often makes it so. This research shares recommendation and techniques that encompasses student recognition, beliefs, and attitudes about learning. Number 4. Homework and practice. Practice supports learning. Homework needs to be intentional and have a specific goal outcome. Homework and practice are related, connected by the context when students are learning on their own and applying new knowledge. There are much controversy over homework these days, but meaningful homework does increase student achievement. Practice means students are involved often frequently in the implementation of new learning. Practice means students are engaged in applying new learning, often repeatedly. The purpose of practice is for learners to get as close as possible to mastery. Student skills develop through practice and repetition. How would you expect a student to get better at reading if you don't actually practice reading? How students get better in mathematics if they don't try to solve a problem? As a future mathematics teacher, we should give our students enough time to practice solving different problems in math, because it will help them to improve and train their mind and to get used to it, because we all know that not every student loves math. So we should give our students enough time to practice the skills that were taught in the classroom. The old saying, practice makes perfect. Next is non-linguistic representations. Students will benefit from receiving content in a variety of ways, not just verbal. The fact is that children today are used to receiving information through television. If you're teaching students have account its best using manipulative and concrete objectives. Information is better organized when using visual representation at times. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Can you even imagine teaching a geography class without maps, images, diagrams, and others? If you have to read direction to put something together, you better hope for some visual examples. Non-linguistic representations enhance students' ability to use mental images to represent and elaborate on knowledge. To back up slightly, knowledge is stored in two forms: linguistic form as language, and non-linguistic form as mental images and physical sensations. The more individuals use both types of representation, the better they are able to reflect on and recall knowledge. Next is cooperative learning. Research shows that organizing students into cooperative groups yields a positive effect on overall learning. Cooperative learning should be used to increase student achievement while teaching student code, soft skills, and fostering student relationships. So many jobs require teamwork and collaborating with others. In the classroom, cooperative learning examples include learning centers and jigsaw activities. Learning centers are great for grouping students to work on specific skills set as each center teachers can have students work together to solve problems, write a story, or carry out science experiments. Number 7. Setting objectives and providing feedback. Set objectives that are adaptable to student learning goals and provide feedback toward those goals. Setting objectives involves specific teacher and students' behavior, including both decision-making and communicating. Provide students a clear and measurable learning target and have a students work towards achieving that goal. Lesson targets are the first step toward learning. They set classroom in the right direction. Give feedback that is both constructive and positive. Relate to feedback to the learning target. We have to let students know what they are doing right or what they are doing wrong, or else how we can expect them to learn. Next is generating and testing hypotheses. Have students predict and test hypotheses and explain the outcomes. There are different tasks that will require students to generate and test hypotheses. Some examples of lesson tasks include problem solving, inventions, decision making, experimenting, investigations, and system analysis. Hypothesizing requires high-order thinking. Students must not only retain information but must also apply that information using logic. Don't just give students solutions, ask them to make predictions and deductions as to what may happen next. And lastly, questions, cues, and advanced organizers. Use questions, cues, and advanced organizers to see students tap into their background knowledge to make sense of information. Questions and cues will guide students to analyze and apply information while evoking critical thinking skills. Teachers should routinely pose questions to the students. Be sure to give students ample wait time is necessary for students to process the questions, then call on the students after the student responds. Follow up with more probing questions. Thank you for listening and God bless us all.